If your credit score is holding you back from getting approved for loans, credit cards, or even a house, I've got good news for you. There are legal strategies that you can use to manipulate your credit score and boost it fast, sometimes in as little as 30 days. You dig me? In this video, I'll break down step by step how to raise your credit score fast and take control of your financial future. First things first, thank you guys for watching this video. If you're brand new to this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you invest in me, I'll invest in you. And if you've been around, you know what to do. I'll give you a second to do that. Excellent. Now, just to tell you a little about myself, when it comes to credit, I've been doing this as early as 2019. But I've been helping countless people do this since 2021. Not only for free, but I constantly give game out on how to be able to boost your credit score. So everything that I'm about to talk about today is literally to put you in a position to fix your credit so that you can get funding and you can invest in yourself. All right. So make sure you watch this entire video so that you know how to be able to take back your financial power. So number one, I want you guys to understand that when it comes to your credit score, it can be manipulated. All right. Now, what do I mean by that? Most people think your credit scores are fixed 700 a couple months ago. You look back at it a couple months later and your score is up or down. I want you guys to know that your score is actually fluid and can change based on specific actions, even within 30 days. So you have to make sure that you're checking your credit report regularly so that you know when your score is actually changing. Number two, banks use a formula that you can legally influence to get faster improvements. And we're about to talk about that today. And the whole goal is to trigger the right algorithm changes to raise your score in 30 days or less. So stick around because we're about to talk about some of those things. Now, here are the 5 key factors to your credit score and essentially how to manipulate them. So the first things first is your payment history. Your payment history is worth 35% of your credit score. So this is the most important factor that a lot of people do not pay attention to. They'll focus on other stuff in regards to their credit, but making on-time payments is the most important thing. So if you have late payments, typically you lose about 100+ points just by having a late payment. And a lot of times they don't tell you that if you have a late payment, that is essentially 11 positive payments. So in order for you to overcome a late payment, the natural way, you would have to essentially pay your credit card on time 11 times. That's 11 months. Now, if you have late payments, there's some things that you can do. Number one, you can request a goodwill adjustment. This is something where you send a letter to the credit bureaus and you ask them, hey, look, man, I made positive payments over a certain amount of time, especially if you hit that 11-month mark. And you can say, hey, can you guys do me a favor? Just update the account and remove the late. Okay. This is if you want to do it more in a goodwill way. Okay. Number two, you can dispute the late payment. And on this channel, I talk about how to challenge late payments. I talk about the whole dispute process. And I always recommend people to dispute their credit, especially if a goodwill letter doesn't work. Because essentially, when it comes to the inaccuracy under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, there's so many different factors that determines whether something is inaccurate. Don't go and send a letter and say, oh, this account isn't mine. Go and send a letter and challenge them on the inaccuracy. Okay. Number three, catch up on your past due balances. Okay. Late payments reported every 30 days hurt. The longer you go not paying your bill, the more that your credit will go down. All right. So we talk about debt discharge all the time, but I always recommend people who are not in a financial bind to pay your bills on time until you figure out how to discharge debt, move into the private, do all the things that we discuss on this channel as well. Do the simple thing and pay your bills on time. Okay. While you're learning. And when you feel confident, then you can do those strategies. But I want you to know, if you start to do these strategies while you are trying to build your credit, it's actually not going to work in your favor. So make sure you catch up on your past due balances. Number two, a second factor to your credit report that is super essential to your credit report that fluctuates your report the most all right, whether or not you have late payments or not, is your credit utilization. You typically want to keep your credit utilization under 10%. This is how you manipulate your credit, because if you keep it under 10%, then essentially what's going to happen is your credit will boost. All right. Now you want to do it. You want to make sure you pay before the statement closing date and not just the due date. A lot of times we make our payments by the due date, but if you can make it before then, that will be the best case scenario. So it can actually report. And then you can also request a credit limit increase. Typically you do this after you have made positive payments over a certain period of time, 3 to 6 months, 90 to 120 days. If you do this, then you put yourself in a position to where you can balance out your utilization. Let's say you have $1,000 credit card, you only can use 10%, that's $100. You now get a $2,000 credit card, 10% of 2,000 is 200. Now, when we talk about utilization, it's not that you want to only use 10%. It's about getting it below 10% by the time it closes. Okay? So if you guys are, if your goal is to make sure that your credit gets boosted and it doesn't get affected by the utilization, make sure you bring it down. Now, I'm not telling you to take your balances down to 0, but also I'm not telling you to leave balances on there. You dig me? So if you have $1,000 credit card, right, and you over 50 or 30% utilization, you want to make sure you're bringing that down. This is why your credit score fluctuates even in between the month, because whatever credit card is reporting over 10%, 20%, 30%, or even higher, your credit is going to go down. Okay. Another hack that you guys can do is pay your credit cards multiple times a month, 3 times a month. All right. 2 times a month. If you get paid twice during the month, allot some money to put down on your credit card. Now, it wouldn't be bad if you were properly using your credit. Do not use your credit for things that, especially if you're trying to get your utilization down, stop using your credit cards, especially if it's not for everyday task. Don't use your credit card while you're paying it down if you have a high balance. But when you get it down, start using your credit cards for things you have money for. Do not use your credit cards for things that you don't have money for. And then after you do that, you have a bill. Run up a check on your credit card. You think of it as extra money, and now you have a bill and you're paying it off for the next 12 months. Don't do that. Or you're coming to me saying, hey, I want to discharge my debt, but you spent 4 to 5 grand on that vacation and you think that you can come to me and get it discharged. I'm going to tell you to go watch my YouTube videos and learn how to challenge them. And even still, if you plan to go the discharge route, it works best for closed accounts. It works best for collection accounts to the point where it's not affecting your credit reports. You can discharge debt, but if you don't know how to do it properly, it's going to affect your credit score and actually make things much slower. Number 3, your credit age is super important. The way that you can essentially manipulate it is becoming an authorized user on an old account. This instantly boosts your credit score. If you close an old account, you can request to reopen it. Some banks allow it. And then I usually tell people to not close old accounts. If you have that $200 Capital One card, right, that you've had for the last 5 years, just because they're not increasing the limits, that is more valuable than a $50,000 American Express credit card you just got in the eyes of lenders. Now, trade lines aren't everything. If you have bad credit, the trade lines won't work. Okay? If you've had bad credit over the last 3 years, your trade lines or any other authorized user won't work. You cannot put shit, or you can't put sugar on shit. Sorry for my French, but you get what I'm saying. Number 4, you want to have a good credit mix. So you want to make sure you're adding the right accounts. So if you only have credit cards, you can add something like an installment loan, like a credit builder loan, or a self-lender's account. Links will be down in the description. Okay. If you only have loans, get a secure credit card or try to get a credit card. More diverse your credit mix is, the higher your score. So make sure that you have multiple types of credit. And if you have multiple types of credit, this will affect your score 10%. So if you get a new credit card, let's just say right now, within the next 30 days, once that reports, it may hit your score, right? But in the eyes of lenders, they'll see, oh, dang, this person got a credit card, a loan, and all of this. I've seen people with 700 credit scores not get approved for things because they don't have a excellent mix, versus someone who has a 680 or a 650 have more approval odds because they have they have more of a mix. And number 5, your inquiries is another essential thing, because your inquiries only take up about 10% of your credit score. So it's not that much that you'll get from it, up to 55 points if you were to completely clear it. But if you tap into disputing those unauthorized inquiries, the FCRA allows this if you were to avoid multiple inquiries in a short time. So essentially, if you apply for credit, do it all on the same day to minimize the impact. They have this duplication rule, whereas if you apply for credit or apply for multiple types of credit in one time, then the value of those inquiries actually dwindle down. And also at the same time, when you think of it from a more long-term perspective, and let's just say inquiries fall off in every 2 years, you feel me? They will all fall off at the same time. And you would have gotten all the credit that you need. And when you apply for things, they don't register the inquiries at that moment. Okay? They register those inquiries after 24 hours, sometimes even 30 days, depending on the type of credit. And I usually tell people to do pre-approvals to avoid unnecessary hard inquiries. So go to a Navy Federal, go to a Capital One, go to these different, try to get pre-approved first before you go for the big boys. Now, on the inquiry side, if you have inquiries on your credit report, you can actually remove that stuff in 24 hours. Down below, I have a 24-hour inquiry guide. It'll literally teach you how to do it. I think it's only $22. Now, here's the 30-day credit score blueprint that I'm just going to break down. Number 1, remove those negative accounts and late payments. Use consumer law like the FCRA, the FDCPA to dispute inaccurate items. Number 2, send a goodwill letter or a pay for delete request if the account is accurate. And number 3, file a CFPB complaint if the bureaus don't respond. Do this within 30 days. You can possibly get some results immediately. Number 2, you want to lower your credit utilization before the statement date. So don't think of your credit as a bill, okay? Think of it as an asset, all right? Maybe you don't have all the money, or maybe you have spent a little bit more than you need to. Take your next check and put it all on your credit card. Have it report, and then you can use that money for those things that you need to use that money for. If you do this every single month, right, and take a little bit out, right, manage it well, your credit score will actually start growing. And you can do a method called credit stacking, where you open a new high limit credit card to lower overall utilization. So essentially, if you have a $1,000 credit card and your utilization in totality, when you use $500 is 50%. If you get a $10,000 credit card, now that $500 doesn't even look like a high utilization in its totality. You can even do things like balance transfers and transfer that $500 onto that $10,000 card. So now you don't have a high utilization. And on top of that, ask for those limit increases. Number 3, become an authorized user on a high limit and age credit card. This instantly adds history and utilization improvement. So ask a family or buy a trusted trade line. Only do this if your credit doesn't have negative items. If it has negative items, do not do this. If it's a utilization problem, you can do this. Now, there are some banks and some lenders that are cracking down on trade lines and authorized users and things of that nature. So it doesn't always work for all lenders. They can see that it's an authorized user. But for those pre-approvals, it may be able to help you. The biggest step is, after you do this, add some positive lines of credit. Play the long game. Get a self-lender account or a secure credit card or a credit card, especially if you don't have any, so that you can add fresh and positive history. You build that up for about 3 to 6 months, your credit score is actually going to go up. Okay, I know I said this is a 30-day video, but over time, this is what you truly want to do if you want to boost your credit score. And number 5, remove those hard inquiries and clean up your credit report. Dispute those old and unauthorized inquiries with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Use LexisNexis and Sage Stream Freezes to block verification sources. You can also do a phone call, challenge them and say, hey, look, man, I noticed some unauthorized inquiries on my credit reports. You are required by the FCRA to remove anything that's unauthorized, unverifiable off my credit report. Do this for accounts that you didn't get credit with. Down below, I have a full inquiry guide that's only 22 bucks. You guys can tap in with that. I literally show you how to do it in course form. And I give you a script. Now, here's the truth about credit score manipulation. Is it legal? Yes. All of these methods work within consumer laws. So again, this is not no undercut method that I'm teaching you. All of this stuff you can do based off the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Number 2, does this work for everyone? If you follow these steps, you'll see real results within 30 days. If you follow them, no shortcuts. All right. And another question someone may ask is, what if it doesn't work? You need to challenge the credit bureaus directly through a lawsuit, which you can win. And I also have a lawsuit template down below that if you ever get to a position where you need to challenge your credit bureaus through the lawsuits, I have a template down below. Now, I will be dropping a 750 Accelerator 2.0 within the next coming weeks. It may even be up by the time I upload this video. But essentially, it'll be teaching you guys how to properly dispute credit, properly build your credit, and if you can't do that, how to properly sue the credit bureaus. Okay? And essentially, if you do everything that I just told you, all right, you'll be able to build a case, build evidence if this stuff doesn't work within 30 days. That you've tried everything. I've reached out to the creditors, I've reached out to the credit bureaus, I filed my CFPB complaint, I have my evidence of their responses, and now I'm going to challenge them in court. Now, this is not legal advice. I still tell you to consult a legal professional, but at the end of the day, you have a right to do everything I just told you. Now you have the exact blueprint on how to boost your credit score in 30 days. If you found this video valuable, hit the like button, comment down below what else you want to learn, hit the subscribe button. Happy Friday. And what I want you guys to put in the comment section is, what is the biggest challenge you've had when it came to your credit score? Tell me down below, and I'll pick one of those topics and I'll make a video on it. Remember, the links are down below. Check them out. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Ha!